Babylon, mother of harlots. Mystery: Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, a world religion, a city, a center of world commerce. Babylon, false religion. Revelation chapter 17 describes John's vision of a woman and explains its meaning. Come hither, I'll show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery: Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I'll tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Revelation chapter 17, verse 1, verses 4 to 7, 15 and 18. This chapter describes false religion, its place and power in the end times yet to come, as well as its origin, Babylon. The term Babylon, used by God here, points to Babel in Genesis chapters 10 and 11. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Genesis chapter 10, verses 8 to 10. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and bend them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Therefore is the name of it called Babel. Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 to 4 and 9. False religion began with Cain. Both he and his brother Abel believed in God. They were religious. They brought him offerings and worshipped him. Yet, we read that while God accepted Abel, he did not accept Cain or his offering. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? Genesis chapter 4, verses 2 to 7. What was the difference in their worship? And what was it that God objected to in Cain's approach? Abel came to God with a blood sacrifice, while Cain brought the work of his hands. To this day, this is the difference between the true worship of God and all other religions, including counterfeit Christianity, which teaches that salvation is by our works. Religion is man's attempt to make himself acceptable to God by the work of his own hands. It is man thinking that there's something he can do that will make God accept him into heaven. Good works, religious activity, personal sacrifices, following rites and sacraments, obeying the law, etc. Bible Christianity is recognizing that there is nothing we can do to appease God's holy wrath against our sin, and coming to him in repentance. The only payment acceptable to God is the blood of the Lamb. Without shedding of blood is no remission. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 22. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Jesus Christ. Even we have believed in Jesus Christ, that we might be justified by the faith of Christ, and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. Galatians chapter 2 verse 16. Babel is the beginning of organized religion. Not just one man trying to make himself acceptable to God, like Cain, but all men together trying to reach heaven by their own efforts. This was not a good intention on the part of man, but open rebellion against God. Their whole purpose was to reach unto heaven and make us a name. It was pride and disobedience, and God opposed it, confused their language, and scattered men throughout the earth. While this stopped the building of the Tower of Babel, as men scattered, they took with them the seed of organized false religious worship. This organized religion will reach its height and culminate in its most evil and corrupt form following the rapture of the true church from the earth. False religion has always persecuted true believers from Abel throughout the history of mankind and into the future. I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Babylon's political power. This false religion, the woman, is described as sitting upon many waters, the peoples and nations of the world. Verse 15. And upon the beast, the Antichrist, and his empire. This symbolizes the power and influence of this organized religious system over the political realm. The fact that she both sits on the beast and is carried by it shows not only her power, but her reliance on the political system of the time. They promote each other. The whole is decked with splendor, arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, which shows her glory and great wealth. This religion is very rich. It is also a counterfeit of the true worship of God. The terms used to describe her include whore, fornication, abomination, filthiness. This is not simply false religion, but false religion disguised as the true worship of God. It is counterfeit Christianity. Verses 1 to 15 cover the first half of the tribulation period, when the religious Babylon will have great power and influence over the affairs of man. Verses 16 to 18, however, describe her downfall and complete destruction. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hurt the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Revelation chapter 17, verses 16 to 18. For the first half of the tribulation period, she will hold great power. But after 3.5 years, the Antichrist will either see her as a challenge to himself, or decide that he no longer needs her support. He will obtain the allegiance of the world leaders under his control and destroy her utterly, setting himself up to be worshipped as God. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. Revelation chapter 13, verse 8. Commercial Babylon. Chapter 18 follows the fall of Babylon, false religion, and describes the social, political, cultural, and commercial life of the end times. This is commercial Babylon. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of a fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Revelation chapter 18, verse 3. Babylon, the religion, is destroyed by the Antichrist. Babylon, the city and global commercial center, is destroyed by God's direct judgment. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Revelation chapter 18, verse 8. God will destroy this Babylon because of its unfaithfulness and intoxicating rebellion against God and seduction of men through materialism. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Verse 3. Accumulated sin and iniquities, his sins have reached unto heaven. Verse 5. Arrogance, self-conceit, self-glorification, boast and blasphemy, how much she hath glorified herself. Verse 7. Careless ease and devotion to commerce, material possessions, financial gain, human trafficking, and idolatry. Verses 12 to 13. Deception of men, by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Verse 23. Persecution of the saints and the murder of men. In her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Verse 24. The whole world laments this destruction, which brings about a global financial crisis. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. Revelation chapter 18, verse 11. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of a costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Revelation chapter 18, verses 15 to 19. World leaders, traders, and tycoons bitterly bewail the destruction of the city, which represents their financial prosperity. But there is rejoicing in heaven at God's judgment on this evil system and the vindication of his people. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets. For God hath avenged you on her, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Revelation chapter 18, verses 20 to 24. True believers are warned to be separate from this world system, both now and then. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that he be not partakers of her sins, and that he receive not of her plagues. Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. Be he not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Wherefore, come out from among them, and be he separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and he shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, 17 to 18. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 to 16. Have you considered where you stand before a holy God? Are you following in Cain's footsteps or Abel's? True Christianity or Babylon, mother of harlots? God gives us a very clear choice. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom he will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua chapter 24, verse 15.